Yeah, messieurs! Welcome back to the Spearfishing channel. In this video, I'll be covering a couple of my last dives of 2024, and in those couple days, me and my partners killed some amazing fish. We started out this first day diving an offshore pinnacle that is notorious for holding big barras. When we had first jumped in the water, the bigger fish were around, but they were being very cautious. This smaller fish swam up to me relatively early in my dive, but it really wasn't the size I was looking for. However, at this point in the day, I didn't have anything in the boat and I didn't want to come up empty-handed. It wasn't a very big barra, but I was hoping that the commotion of shooting this 4-pounder would have drawn in some of those bigger fish. Unfortunately though, things just didn't go our way and we made a run up to Pebble Beach. I was just diving the outer reef line, and while I was making this drop, I saw a nice mutton snapper out the corner of my eye. These fish are incredibly smart, so I made sure not to make eye contact with it so it wouldn't feel threatened. I was really hoping that at this point the fish would have turned around, but since it was swimming in the opposite direction, I used the reef as cover to close the gap myself. Muttons are one of my favorite fish and a really fun challenge to hunt, so this 5-pounder kinda made up for that lack of fish we were seeing. The day was getting late, and with those first 2 zones barely producing fish, we changed spots again. We were out hitting the deeper reefs behind point, and like always, I went straight to the bottom to get myself into a good hunting position. On this day, the current was really hard here, so while I was approaching the reef, I was coming down at an angle and I took some time to look around. Then, as soon as I hit the bottom, I looked up and saw a solid barra. Right away, I took my eyes off the fish so it wouldn't feel threatened, and I waited for it to come to me. Since I pulled the trigger while it was facing me, I used my foot as a barrier while pulling it in just in case it wanted to make a run. Barracudas have some nasty teeth, so you never want to get your hands near their mouth. That can make getting your hands in their gills a real challenge, but as long as you take your time, you must get through. This nice barra came in at around the 9-pound mark, which was a really nice fish to end off that first day. Day 2 was my last dive of 2024, so I went out with Make It Happen and a bunch of my partners for me to have a good send-off. Unfortunately, I ended up getting sick that morning, so my breath hold was really bad and I wasn't able to dive at 100%. We started out the day by Pebble Beach, but I stayed on the boat at first and I ended up joining everyone when we got to Lucia. I was diving with Jamil in about 60 feet of water, but since I wasn't at 100%, I was only able to dive up and down without actually lying on the bottom. Luckily, that wasn't an issue here because the fish were really curious and these nice muttons swam right up to me. My shot ended up hitting a little too low, so I played the fish as lightly as possible for it not to rip out. Then, as soon as I made it to the surface, I signaled Jamil to put in a backup shot. It may have been a little overkill, but I would rather have 2 spares in the fish than make it escape. Once we finished diving Lucia, we made a run down to Grozile, and before hopping in the water, I swapped guns with my partner George. There was a lot of bait fish in this area, and I was really hoping I would see something like an AP or a monster king mackerel. With that in mind, I was trying my best to follow the bait ball in hopes that those predators would be doing the same thing. Now, I was looking for something big, but while I was swimming around looking for those fish, something near the bottom caught my eye. That was another small mutton, and with that being my first time using George's roller, my aim was way off. I just let the fish run and I took my time bringing it in so the shot wouldn't rip out. This nice little mutton was slightly bigger than the last one, coming in at just over 4 pounds. It wasn't the biggest fish ever, but with my sickness, it felt really good to at least be catching something. As the day went on, we continued drifting down the reef and we ended up in the same area where I shot my PB mutton. This zone is very unique for the Caribbean side since it's full of complex ledges and caves. These ledges are the perfect hiding spot for snappers, and it didn't take long for me to run into this nice doggy. This 7-pound dog snapper was a nice upgrade from those muttons, and it gave me a good feeling that there would be some more fish around. While I was still on the surface, I saw about a 4-pound doggy run underneath this hole, and I went to go and check it out. However, when I looked under the ledge, I saw something much bigger. This solid mutton started going crazy after I shot it, and I just knew it was going to give me problems to untangle my line. My plan was to try and cut out this dead piece of coral, but my knife wasn't getting through and I just took out the whole rock. I would never do that with a live coral, but since it was dead already, I didn't feel too bad damaging it. This solid mutton weighed in at 9.5 pounds and it ended up being my last fish of the day. It wasn't the craziest dive ever, but to have gotten those amazing fish with my good partners and all on my last day of 2024 was an unforgettable experience.